I think a lot of people are really nervous to put themselves out there, rightfully so, because there's a lot of backlash that you can get, but you will never get the fan base or consumer base or followers without putting yourself out there relentlessly. And I think that comes down to like anything from a lot of social media content to like really good merch that you wear all the time.
You're listening to Make Up Your Mind. Here we help you figure out your passion, release the mindset blocks keeping you stuck, and take real action. But first, take about 2 seconds to subscribe to the show and leave me a really good review so you can keep getting more episodes. Get ready to finally make up your mind. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Make Up Your Mind. I'm your host, Jahleane, and as you can tell from the episode title, today we have another very special guest. If you've been anywhere in the business or entrepreneurship world, you've definitely seen her name floating around. If you saw Alex Cooper's interview after her big Spotify deal, and also after interviewing Kamala Harris, her interview that she did with Forbes, or maybe you keep up with Jake Shane, Halsey, you've definitely seen Alex York's name. She is the associate editor for Forbes 30 Under 30 and my friend. So I'm so excited that she's on the podcast today. Alex, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited for this.
I know. I'm so excited. I feel like you have just so much wisdom to share. And today we're just going to be touching on all things entrepreneurship, post-grad life, and just making a career of your own. So let's get into it.
I love it. I love being on this side of the interview. This is not usually the seat that I'm sitting in. So I'm a little nervous, but I can't wait.
No, like I'm a little nervous. I'm interviewing the real journalist.
No, I love it. You're
deal.
a real journalist too in this
Oh my
role.
gosh. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's get into it. Speaking of journalism, right? So I would love for us to start back in the beginning. Can you describe a little bit about what your postgrad life looked like and your career progression? Because you started at NYU and now you're at Forbes. A dream job situation, a dream career situation for so many people and aspiring journalists. Can you walk us through sort of how that happened?
Yeah, definitely. It has been quite the journey, I would say, and not very linear. I went to NYU, like you said, started there in 2017, and my major was called Media Culture and Communications, which I always like to describe that as like creative international relations. It was very much had a global focus, but kind of from like the PR and marketing side of things, a little bit of, media, but more just like on the digital media side, a little tiny bit of like broadcast, but I was not really on that side of things. I thought I wanted to go down the advertising route. So that's why I applied to that major in the first place. And I was like all set on doing some sort of like international advertising. So it was the perfect major for that because I learned a lot about global media trends, how to like be on an advertising or a marketing or PR team. But through like internships and just, taking classes and things like that, I realized that was not totally the path for me. I liked parts of it, but I wasn't like super excited about any of it as much as I thought that I was going to be. But right before, or right like when COVID happened, I was supposed to have an internship in influencer marketing, and that got canceled because of COVID, and they could no longer like pay me to join the team. So instead of getting credits through that internship, I needed to take another class to replace those credits. So I took a journalism class, and it was a fashion journalism class, and like fashion journalism was like, besides political stuff or like broadcast TV, like really the only other type of journalism I had come across, just because I wasn't reading business newspapers or things like that, to be honest. So I took that class and I loved it so much that I decided, this class is at like 6 to 9 p.m. on Monday and Wednesdays during the summer, and I don't hate going. So maybe this is a sign that I should like follow this for my career. And it was one semester before I graduated as well. So I took that class, absolutely loved it, and then decided with one semester to go that I wanted to go the journalism route. So that next semester, I had an internship at like a small magazine in the city. I was essentially like a fashion intern carrying garment bags around the city, but which was really annoying, but I did get to write a couple of times. So that's like what I was doing. I'm like, if I can just get a few clips for this small magazine, then that'll be like the clips that I can submit to jobs in the future. So that was kind of my like entry into journalism, realized I loved it through there. And then I graduated the semester after, and then we were in the middle of COVID, and it was really difficult to find a job as it is in the media industry in general. I think COVID made that even heightened, but stuck with it, even though my mom was like, are you sure you don't want to just like get a job in a different industry. And I'm like, girl, no. And she's very supportive of me now, but I'm like, just trust me on this.
Yeah.
So ultimately, yeah, I got a job at Business Insider, was my first job after college.
Oh my gosh. What an amazing journey. So you're saying you switched your whole major or like a quarter before graduating? Can you
So I
clarify
didn't
that a bit?
switch my whole major. I still like got my degree in media culture and communications, but I switched like the jobs that I was looking for. So I was really
Got
only
it.
looking for journalism jobs after that. So yeah, but it was literally that one journalism class that I took all through college that kind of like course corrected me. So I still had the MCC degree, but yeah, then after that I was like, I want to find a job in journalism.
Wow, you really slipped and fell into your passion, huh?
I truly did. I truly did.
So walk us through, that first internship that you had. You said it was a fashion internship, and then that ended up setting you up for Business Insider. What was that learning curve like from the past opportunities that you have to just making such a great pivot?
Yeah, I think that the thing that really indicated to me that I liked business reporting, which is why I was looking at BI in the first place, is during that fashion internship, like I said, it was during COVID. And a lot of the reporting that I got to do was about small brands in the city and how they were recovering from COVID. So I would interview like salon owners or like people in the beauty space on how they were bringing in clients in the middle of lockdowns, how they were faring, and kind of like the business side of things, which, like I said before that, I really had no intentions of like going down the business journalism route, but I really loved talking to these business owners around the city to just like learn what they were going through and how they were kind of navigating a world that like a lot of us, I think, were really confused about, scared of, trying to decide like what the next step for all of us was, how to make a living, all those sorts of things. So that was my first foray into like business reporting at all, and it was like at a very low level at that point. But from there was a girl actually that I interned with that happened to get an internship at BI the summer, whatever it was, after we worked together, and that kind of opened my eyes to Business Insider. So I ended up applying to a fellowship there, which was like a 6-month program, not guaranteed to get a job after, but the potential to get a job after. So I decided to do that fellowship. It was on the small business team. So we were focused on small businesses, kind of, like I had been doing for the past couple of months in my fashion journalism internship. So that's, I think, like kind of how I got my foot in the door, because I had some of those clips surrounding the same topics. But it was, yeah, a 6-month trial essentially for both like the company, obviously, to see if they should hire me, but also I felt like me to see if this is something that I really wanted to stick with, especially because I was coming into it like late in the game as far as industry goes. And so many journalists decide when they're like 8 years old that they're going to be a journalist and report for their local paper and whatnot. So it was a good trial for me also to say, like, is this a good fit for me? Do I like this company? Luckily for me, they ended up hiring me after that 6-month trial period, and I was there for about 2 years after that, or like a year and a half after that, I guess, because I was there for 2 years total. And throughout that time frame, I moved from the small business team. We kind of transitioned into entrepreneurship at large, because a lot of the like small business owners that we were talking to were digital creators or people who were online and building quote small businesses, but really just themselves as entrepreneurs. And that was a huge thing that blossomed during COVID. So we kind of transitioned to be entrepreneurship in general. That was kind of our beat. And then from there I started covering Gen Z. So I moved away from the like entrepreneurship side of things and more to the employee side of things. So what are Gen Z employees looking for? What do Gen Z people want out of like life and work and their career? And are they wanting to find a job they're passionate about, or do they just want to make money? So I moved into that beat, and then I covered that for a while too before I left BI.
Okay. And so during this time, you mentioned that you were specifically looking in the 6-month period and eventually when they gave you full-time offer to make sure that this was something that was truly for you. Is there a specific moment or experience that you had during this period that was a turning point and you're like, yeah, I'm definitely going to be a journalist. This is my career path, and you stood on business with it?
Ooh, that's such a good question. I don't know if there was a specific moment necessarily. There were definitely some pieces that I was really excited about getting the chance to do. And I think that with that fellowship, they kind of threw you in as if you were a reporter. So I wasn't like just doing, I don't know, fact checking or, research for other reporters, things like that. Like I really was doing reporting as a reporter would. So I think it just like threw me into the profession right away. And then I think I just got to meet like cool people. I got to talk to so many cool people all the time, which really kind of like I guess, sparked my love of interviewing. And as an introvert, normally, like, I feel like it was a way for me to put on like a different hat and be like, no, I'm working right now, so I can be talkative, I can, be extroverted, and then, kind of see that side of myself as well. So I think it was like little things and just like gaining confidence throughout that 6 months. And I loved my manager. Like, I
Mm.
truly, truly loved her. Her name is Emily Canal. And she is just like an absolute star. And she really taught me like how to report and write, because like I said, I did not have training in this. So I think having someone that really showed me the ropes and helped me when I was not doing it right, but then like really gave me the opportunity to test things out and do things differently to see if I could be right in another way, that was super important for me as well.
Yeah, shout out to Emily.
I
She sounds
know.
like she did a great job, especially as you're doing Gen Z reporting and their experiences in the workplace and their experiences in entrepreneurship. It sounds like you also had a blueprint for how things should go and how a manager should treat you.
Yeah, definitely. And I had a great experience there. After Emily, I had another manager named Tim, and he's really who oversaw my Gen Z reporting side of things. And I will say, like, for any people who are looking for a job or, kind of starting their career, finding the managers, if you can, that just like allow you to experiment was so critical for me. And I think it's just as so much is changing in the business world and so many of our industries, a lot of young people know what they're talking about in a lot of ways that, with social media or other new technologies or whatnot, that I think just finding people that trust you is
Yeah.
so critical and like just really can help you grow in your early years in your career.
Yeah, emphasis on the trust because who likes a micromanager too, or
Uh-huh.
someone who just you just feel like you can't even do your best work around. That's the recipe for the almost like for a terrible workplace.
Definitely. And like you can't innovate then and nothing
No.
new will come of it. You have to have the flexibility and the freedom to like try an idea and see if it works, because you never know. Like maybe it really will. And then maybe you'll shift beats to that, or whatever it is. So yeah, I think having that freedom is super important.
Yeah, just like in the same way that your exploration led you to this career.
Exactly.
So, switching gears a little bit, you have this amazing experience at Business Insider. I would love to know what was it that obviously working at Forbes sounds like an amazing opportunity, but what was it like specifically for you to leave that opportunity where you got your foundation and then step into bigger waters?
Yeah, it was definitely I wasn't like looking for a new job. I wasn't actively job searching when I was at BI, but I came across this posting for the job that I had at my first job at Forbes, which was a reporter on the under 30 team on LinkedIn. So I literally like applied through that. And I think at the time I was at Business Insider and I was really, really liking covering young people, but I really missed covering entrepreneurs. I was super inspired by talking to founders all the time, business owners, people who were building things up for themselves. And so while I really like talking to the Gen Z audience, I also really like talking to the founder audience. And the job that I took at Forbes and applied to was essentially doing exactly that as a
Mhm.
reporter on the 30 under 30 team. So I would be talking to people under 30 and talking with them about how they're like changing the world or their industries. So it was kind of just like the perfect combination of the topics that I was really loving working on. And so, like, kind of along those same lines, it the job at Forbes also included so many different forms of media. So going back to my college days when I was studying things like marketing and advertising and digital content stuff, the job at Forbes allows me to do more video interviews. We have summits, we have, a newsletter that we put out every Friday. So it was so many different forms of media that I had not gotten a chance to really like try out yet. So I also wanted to kind of test if I liked those types of tasks and that type of reporting as well.
Yeah, and that was something that I wanted to ask you about because I know that when I was speaking with Gianna Prudente, who's she's an editor and journalist at LinkedIn. We love LinkedIn here.
Mhm.
But she was telling me in one of our past interviews that it's just so different being in print
Mhm.
media versus video and just all the different kinds of media. Was that a difficult transition from you to literally being someone online and doing video who's interviewing people like Alex Cooper and doing these amazing things. Like, what was that transition like for you?
Definitely so much learning. Like I had to
Mhm.
learn from the ground up how to sit in front of a camera and interview someone, and how to moderate on stage. And I was doing like a little bit of that beforehand, but it really was like a crash course, like either figure it out or you're not going to succeed because you have to
Yeah.
do it. And I think a lot of it just came through doing it. Like the first big story that I wrote for Forbes was with Halsey, and I had never interviewed a celebrity in my life before, never, and some like social media creators, but no one to the caliber of like a celebrity. And that was like nerve wracking in some ways, but I think doing that, first of all, she was like the kindest person on planet Earth. And so I think that experience allowed me to like settle into it a little bit. Like I was reminded that these people are also like people that you can talk to. So I think it really just took doing it and testing it out and, trying those different formats of things to decide that it was something that I enjoy doing, but then also like you look back on videos and you're like, oh, I should have said that differently, or I should have done my makeup differently, or whatever it is. So I think it's just like a lot of trial and error for sure.
Yeah. And, you say that these people are just people. It totally reminds me because I did see that you flew out to California to Malibu to interview Emma Chamberlain for Chamberlain Coffee. And also just connecting your passion of wanting to talk to young people, talk to founders. Can you tell me a little bit about what that experience was like and if you learned anything from it?
Yeah, definitely. That was my first like travel trip for reporting. So it was super fun. We were there, like you said, in a beach house in Malibu because we like rented it out for the shoot that day. We had our photo team that was there, so we shot her Forbes Life cover, and did sets around the house that we were shooting, and I got to see like kind of the behind the scenes of the photo stuff as well. And then we had our video team there too to do the sit down interview with her. And I think like all of it is just exciting to see how it comes together. Like I feel like I learned so much, not just from the people that I'm interviewing, but also the other people that I'm surrounded by, like from the Forbes team or from the people that we're working with. And so seeing that all come together was super exciting for me. It was the first time, like I said, that I could like travel somewhere to do a piece of reporting. And I think I just learned a lot about like setting the scene with like where are we right now, who are these people when they're not necessarily on camera, but they're at work in a different way. So I think all of those experiences just kind of show you different sides of the people that you're interviewing, and also the people that you're working with. There's so much to learn from each of those things, I think.
Yeah. And so if you were going to distill it into a couple bullet points of things that you actively learned
Mm.
and sort of the preparation that you had beforehand when it comes to interviewing these big names for these big pieces, what would be some tactical pieces of advice?
I think from a reporting standpoint, like you have to know your stuff. There are so
Mhm.
many instances where you have either less time than you were told you would have, um, to interview these people either on camera or off camera. So like to really know what you want to talk to them about and to like try and get the best out of them and the most important topics out of them, I think is really critical to just be like completely over prepared. So when you're going into these things, you're not like scrambling like, oh, I only have 20 minutes now instead of 40. Like what are the top things that I want to get for this story? So I think just being like hyper prepared, is definitely key. And also to come into these things and not like, I guess this sounds like so cliche, but also just like be yourself in the setting. Like I was saying, like these people are human beings and they want to be treated like human beings. Like you can have a conversation, before you hop on, or just to be more human about it and to come. And I try to come at all of my interviews through a conversational point of view versus like question answer, just because I think that it brings out the best in people. When you think about like sitting down and having a cup of coffee with your friends, or like chatting over lunch or whatever, like that's where the most like energy and excitement and humor comes from, is in those settings. So when you have lights and lights and lights and cameras around you, it's really hard to replicate that. But trying to come at it from like a human point of view, I think also really helps, just kind of like try and relax into like an actual conversation. And then I guess the third thing would just be to like really pay attention to the people that you're working with and to like all that
Mhm.
goes into it, because knowing each of those different aspects of like the photo departments, what they need, what the video team needs, what you need as a reporter, I think it's really important to start to familiarize yourself with the different teams that you're working with, because then the next time around, you'll start seeing like the same questions from this like talent's PR or this talent's agent or whatever. And the more that you can just like answer on your own and be confident in answering, I think really helps just like smooth out those relationships as well. So just like learning from the people around you and from your experiences and taking that then into the next, I think you just like gain a lot of confidence that way.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, with you saying that, it brings me to another question that might be a little bit of a hot take.
Okay, give it to me.
Okay, so right now, since influencers and content creators just have huge audiences that people want to see them converse with celebrities, they want to see them on red carpets and they want to see them doing all these things. What do you think if you're going to give advice specifically to an influencer or content creator that's having these opportunities so that they're showing up well to these opportunities? What would you think would be the biggest piece of advice you would give to someone like that who wants to position themselves in this way but doesn't have the traditional media background?
I think that while the conversational aspect and the like friendliness aspect is important, more so is professionalism. And I
Mhm.
think that coming into these rooms, like journalists are trained to know what questions to ask, know how to phrase them, know how to have these conversations. And I think that coming into the, whether it's a red carpet interview or whatnot, and one, being prepared, like I was talking about, and then also like really focusing on the things that are, I guess, like coming into these red carpets and coming at the questions from a professional perspective is super important because you don't want it, at least as a consumer, I don't necessarily want to see like just a friends laughing session. Like I actually want to know about these people. So to come
Yes.
at it like as an interviewer, as a kind of like means for the consumers to learn information through you and through that conversation, I think it's important to keep that in mind and like to, yeah, come into these experiences like, as if you are a trained journalist and like you have your questions on hand and those are the things that you want to get out of people. I think it's just really important. I think Amelia de Moldenberg does a really, really good job of this. She has totally her own style to things. She's super friendly. She's fun. She, feels like she has a, good rapport with everyone that she reports on, but she is so highly researched that I think
Mhm.
it comes across as like she is truly doing journalism right now. And they can laugh and they can have fun and they can have jokes, but you also learn something about her, the people that she's interviewing whenever she steps foot on the red carpet. So I think that having that mix of like coming at it from a truly professional perspective, being really researched and having really good questions that consumers might want to learn through, yeah, I think that would be my advice.
Yeah. And then for those of you listening, Amelia is the person behind Chicken Shop Date, and she went pretty popular. She got pretty popular from her interviews with Jack Harlow and Andrew Garfield. I think that was
Yeah.
a really big one. Yeah. But specifically with what you said, it sort of reminds me of when you go to a conference and the interviewer doesn't take into account who the audience is
Yes.
when they ask questions. And that's my biggest pet peeve because why are you going to have this mega celebrity and asking them these generic questions and they're just going to say, just believe in yourself? Like, that's not what I paid to come.
Yes,
That's not what I
exactly.
want. Think about what the people want. But
Hmm.
anyways, that's all really great advice. And so I want to switch gears a little bit into the business aspect of it. Obviously, Alex, you are someone who is speaking with these amazing founders every single day. You're speaking with change makers. And so, from your perspective, what is the difference between someone who builds a cool project from someone who builds something that is truly influential and is someone that is might be on the under 30 list or someone who you're seeing in these spaces?
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing for founders to keep in mind because not everyone wants necessarily to build something that's a like large scale business. Some people do want a passion project. Like we all need our hobbies, And I
Mhm.
think knowing that intention from the get go is really important, especially if it is to build a business through it. And not that you can't turn a hobby into a business because so many people have, but I think that the biggest difference that I see is the reach and the scalability in what you're doing. So I think about a lot of kind of smaller businesses that I have interviewed or talked with. Like, let's say it's a hand knit clothing company or a handmade candle company, those sorts of things. A lot of those founders that I've spoken with have told me, like, this is something that I love to do. Like, and I realized I could sell it on Etsy and I could make money through it. that is not super scalable though. Like you only have so many hours in the day and like so many hands to like physically knit things. But on the other side of that, like, are you building an infrastructure, a team around you to be able to scale this to the next level, to reach more people? I think that reach is the biggest indicator of future success. And it's so, I mean, it's difficult on social media, but it's a lot easier now to reach a large group of people than it used to be, through things like social. So I think that like having that reach, even if your finances aren't quite there, showing as many people as you can what you're building, getting your message out there to as many people as possible, that reach is really key in order to establish like not just a viral video, but like a loyal following that comes back time and time again. Because ultimately those followers can turn into customers or, you know, wherever it starts, whether it's followers or somewhere else. But I think like having that ability to reach people and then like implementing the infrastructure to meet those demands will set you apart from something that you're building on your own and for fun into a business that is really scalable and can grow from there.
Yeah. And speaking of reach, I remember Alex and I got ramen a couple weeks ago, but
And it was
Alex was
so good.
so good. We need to go there again. But there was a pickle brand you were telling me about. Would you mind sharing that here?
Yes, this is Hot Girl Pickles. It's a company called Good Girl Snacks. They are on the 30 under 30 list. But the pickle brand is Hot Girl Pickles. And it's two founders who have come together. They're best friends and they wanted to start a pickle company because they saw a major gap in the market in like on the shelves. And when I was talking to them, they're like, you know, when you go to the shelves and you're going to buy a pickle brand, like, do you know the names of the pickles that you're buying? Because like I don't. And I'm like, no, actually, I have no idea. And so they came at this of, you know, we know that there's a gap in the market because there's no like really strong branding behind a pickle company. They love pickles, you know, they wanted to build a business out of it, but they went from like making it in their home to then being able to share it with so many people, getting, you know, money coming in by selling their products. And a major way that they did that is on social media. They tell their own story on social media, from like, this is what a day in our life is like building a pickle company, to these are the challenges that we're having building a pickle company. And like they just recently launched an Erewhon. Like this is us seeing our pickles in Erewhon for the first time. So I think like sharing those different aspects of their life and their journey, with their audience online has really allowed them to grow on social media and then turn those followers into consumers as well. Because the products are really good. The pickles are really good. So
I have to try them. You just talking about the story and your excitement about it makes me want to try pickles, and I'm not a pickle person.
I am a pickle person and these are really good. So yeah, definitely give them a try.
Oh my gosh, you need to get like a lifetime of supply or something.
I know, I know.
It's really funny because that, like you were talking a little bit earlier about how when you're speaking with these celebrities and you're doing your interviews, you're connecting with them because they're just people at the end of the day and they want to
Mhm.
be treated like people. And it reminds me of this whole wave we had of TikTok and COVID and post COVID of people just wanting to connect with people. So it sounds like some of the most influential founders are the ones who are able to translate that to their customer.
And I also think that the industries today, social media and otherwise, are way too saturated to not have that authentic. Okay. I don't even want to say that word.
It's okay.
But I think that social media and all other industries are way too saturated today to not have that true connection and uniqueness to yourself. I think like authenticity is a big buzzword for sure, but it is true in a lot of ways, and I think that that comes back to like telling your own story, your own version of however you decided to launch this company or start this brand or, you know, create this product for yourself. And I think that without that human connection, there are just so many other brands that consumers can choose from. Like, why
Yeah.
would they buy yours? So I think it's really important to like really drive that home time and time and time again, so that each time a new consumer is finding you on social media or seeing a vlog of yours or seeing a product of yours out in the
Yeah.
world, then they're reminded like, oh, this is the people behind it, this is the story behind it, and that's what sets it apart from the many, many other products that are out there.
Yeah, you need to find your defining edge, is what I'm saying.
No, like exactly. That's exactly what I think too, because it's just too crowded otherwise. Like,
Yeah.
and too many people are good at it. You know, too
Yes.
many creators are really good at making content that's solely their content, their style. Too many products are too good at making a product that, like, you know, whatever, whether it's like a shirt that you love or some other product, like, you know how it feels, you know, whatever. So I think that like creating something that is truly unique to you and that you can continue to replicate and like remind people why to come back, it's so, so critical.
Yeah, and that's why how you get those cult-like communities. Yeah, and yeah. So, speaking of, like, authenticity, I know that that's a buzzword that's thrown around so often. One of our mutual friends literally hates that word. But, what are some other qualities that you see across a lot of under 30 founders that almost maybe if you're gonna see someone on the street with their small business, if they have this quality, you're like, "Yeah, they're gonna make it. They're gonna be okay."
I think that people have to be relentless in a
Mhm.
like respectful way. You know, we don't need to be like knocking on people's doors every day with our products, but I think that you cannot stop talking about it. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are really nervous to put themselves out there, rightfully so, because there's a lot of backlash that you can get, but you will never get the loyal fan base or consumer base or followers without putting yourself out there relentlessly. And I think that comes down to like anything from a lot of social media content to like really good merch that you wear all the time. And I think that you can see when founders are so excited about what they're building. And I have a friend, Zara Nakvi, she's an investor. She just launched her own company as well. And I recently interviewed her and she was talking about as an investor, it's so easy for her to tell when the founder's not obsessed with what they're building.
Mm.
And you would think as a founder, you're spending all of your time doing this. Like, of course you're obsessed. But it's actually really quite easy to tell when someone is not totally obsessed with what they're building. And that doesn't need to mean spending 80 hours a week building a product, but it needs to mean really speaking about it in a way that you know exactly what you're talking about. You're not going to stop talking about it, in those spaces that it's appropriate to. You will continue to post about it. You will continue to be forthcoming about it. And a couple of years ago, I wrote a piece about how like the changing and entrepreneurship ecosystem is really moving into having faces to brands. And I think that we've been seeing this slowly and slowly for brands themselves, like brands having a personality or, the people behind a brand really, having a voice behind it. But I think now more than ever, like having the person behind the brand, having the face behind it to be the advocate, to be the spokesperson, whether that's the founder or someone else, I think it's really critical. So just keep talking about it, keep sharing it, even if it's not big yet. Like you have to be fearlessly in pursuit of getting the word out there. Otherwise, it won't.
Yes, yes, to showing up and being present and being relentless about your brand, and also social media being such an impactful tool because a couple decades ago, you just had to go out and get it without
Mhm.
Instagram, without TikTok, and that has just been a game changer for these businesses. But I think the thing that's a little bit negative about social media is that you see some people achieving milestones really, really quickly, but also you hear people say that it takes 10 years to create an
Mhm.
overnight success. So I was curious, how do you sort of see this playing out for young people when it comes to their relationship with social media and also building out a brand and hitting those milestones within a certain period of time?
I think it's such an important topic right now to speak about this kind of battle between viral content that does well and gets sales versus building a sustainable audience. And I think that so the like frequency of going viral is increasing. We saw it massively when TikTok became popular. We'll continue to
Hmm.
see it, increase as either new platforms come about or more people are online or whatnot. And I think that while that is great, the more important thing is to have a engaged audience. And I know that this is talked about like in like loose terms a lot, but I think when it comes to sales, for instance, there are so many companies that like might have a product that goes viral, a product that sells out because an influencer posted about it or whatnot. But unless the consumers who buy that are coming back, that's only going to happen one time. That's going to spike your sales once. You're going to think you're on, a high, that the trajectory is going up. You might spend more money on marketing or whatnot. But if it was one viral piece of content that resulted in that success, that's not actually sustainable long term. And it might screw up how you are evaluating your success right now. And so I
Hmm.
think slower and steadier will always be the way to go. Of course, fast success is exciting and you can take advantage of those viral moments 100%. But I think like really investing in building community with your consumers and bringing people back time and time again is the only way that companies are able to really grow. Because, if you have someone who buys your product and they never buy it again, then someone else might buy it, but that's still only one person that's buying it. Versus if you have someone that buys your product, really loves it, and then you go viral again, so there's another person, but the first person buys your product time and time and time again, that compounds over so many times that
Yeah.
they're buying it. So I think like really, really focusing on getting people to come back to your product is really, really critical. I think that's something that I've seen that some founders have done really successfully is in order to achieve this is to bring their online community offline. So whether that
Mhm.
is in-person events with their most loyal customers, pop-ups around the city, events that are separate from what you are providing, but really kind of sort of create that community and put you top of mind to consumers again and again is a really great way to do it. Two brands that I think that are doing this really well is Oddly, which is a clothing brand based in LA. They, use like recycled fabric and they make clothing in more sustainable ways. And they recently had like a wine and paint night with their consumers, and that was a way to say we're not just we don't just see you as someone who's giving us money, but as like someone who's helping to grow the Oddly brand here on out. Another brand that does this in a really interesting way is Brunch, which is a slipper company, and they offer things like restaurant reservations for places that are really hard to get into for their loyal customers as well. So finding different ways to like bring your social media content, things that might go viral, your product into people's physical and real lives, I think is a really good way to kind of differentiate yourself from, like we've been talking about, just the saturation that's online right now.
Yeah. So when it comes to that community, we have two things. The first is being authentic, our
Mm-hmm.
buzzword. The second is bringing our community from online to offline. And would you say that there's a third key ingredient that you see that a lot of founders do well?
I think, and this is, I guess, also talked about a lot, but having a really quality product from the beginning. And I don't think that that means that, like, I don't think that that perfect should be the enemy of the good. Like if you don't have it totally, totally, totally right, like still launch, still get your word out there. But I really advise founders to not waste their opportunity with consumers. If you have a product line that you're launching, it's your first time launching it, you just want to get it out, but the product sucks, that will be talked about and that will be the impression that you leave on consumers. So I think that not moving too quickly to the point of hurting your future chances is also really important, especially as we're talking about with like this, it could be a potential viral moment. You want to act on something, but waiting long enough to ensure that if someone does buy it, they're not going to have a negative impression of your brand is also important because that's just going to drive people away as well.
Yeah, it's sort of like what we see on TikTok with certain makeup brands and
Exactly.
not
Yes.
having the shade range. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And like in those instances, like maybe it goes viral because an influencer talks about it and it sells out. But then, like, then what? Then people are complaining about it. Then there are tons of negative videos about it online. And like, how do you really come back from that? Companies can if they, address it in the right ways. But I think it's really important to be strategic from the get go,
Yeah.
as well as move as quickly as you can, but only within reason.
Yeah. No, definitely, definitely. And so I know that we're coming up on the end of our interview. So I do have just one final question for you. Lots of people are looking to create a product, be a founder, and just have a really great sustainable business and also get recognition from that. What would you say to people who feel like they're doing all the right things but aren't getting the recognition that they want? Do you have advice for them?
Yes, I think that one, like I said, keep talking about it.
Hmm.
But also, if you've been going at it for a really long time and it's still not happening, like you got to evaluate. There are so many times when a founder is so stuck on the way that they are doing something, the way that they are building a business idea in the first place, when maybe it's just not the right fit for the market. And I think that you have to be really, really honest with yourself in as I'm growing this, as I'm relentlessly pursuing this, are we just not reaching the right people yet, or are we not going to reach the right people because it's not the right product or we're not
Hmm.
messaging it in the right way? And so I think if it's coming time and time again where like you're just really not seeing the success, go back to the drawing board, have a like redo beta test, go back to your early consumers, whether that's like friends and family that you're sharing this product or company with, or someone that's more close to you, and start there again. And I think like just really evaluating, are we approaching this in the right way and we will see success in the future? Or is there something that we maybe need to change and kind of like start from the ground up again? Because I think a lot of times like we can be so convicted, to something and
Yeah.
really go at it with like, I've built this, I've spent a lot of time doing this, and maybe it's just not right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think being really honest in terms of like, we've tried this for so long, but let's go back to the drawing board and see maybe what we're missing, get some outside opinions again, start from the bottom can be another way to help and kind of maybe course correct before you're 10 years in.
No, definitely sooner rather than later,
Yes.
right? Oh, wait, before we go, there's one final question. Because every time the Forbes Under 30 list rolls around on TikTok every year, there are some people, actually a lot of people, who say, well, this person paid, this person did that. I specifically know this person who did this. What do you say to all of these people?
You cannot pay to get on the list. I don't know where that rumor started, but the way that you get on is literally a Google form that you fill out to apply. So if you do have a company, a venture that you're starting, something cool that you're doing for the company that you work for, you can apply online. Literally Google like 30 under 30 nominations page. And from there, our reporters get to work. We look through every application that comes through, which is like up to 20,000 for the US list. So we are searching through all of those, reading your information. Um, but you cannot pay to get on it. So I don't I don't know how to help people there, but it's impossible. The one thing I will say though, in terms of applications for the under 30 list and also businesses in general, you were asking me earlier, like what's something that really makes a company stand out. And I think that something that I wish that I saw more of is companies that explain really, really clearly what they do. If
Mm,
you have a hard time explaining what you're offering, exactly what your service is, exactly what your product is, exactly who your target audience is, it's not going to work. You have to be so, so clear, more clear than you even think that you could be. Like, act like you're explaining this to someone who's never heard of the industry that you're in before. And I think the more clarity that you can have on that, the better chances of getting coverage and, press, and also finding consumers that can truly understand what you're doing. Because the ultimate thing that will turn me away from a brand is if I'm like, well, I don't really know what they sell, so never mind, moving on. So I think it's really important to also be super clear from the get-go about like what you're offering, what you're selling, and explaining that in the simplest of terms as well.
love it. Perfect advice. Clear is kind and concise is the best way to go.
Exactly.
Well,
Yes.
Alex, thank you so much for being a guest on Make Up Your Mind. I loved playing the journalism role today for you.
Love it. Yeah. I thank you for being a good interviewer. This was super fun. And I love talking about these sorts of things. It's my favorite thing to talk about how young people are building interesting stuff for the world and making the changes that they can. So I'm always down to talk about this.
Great. And where are some places that people can find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, Alex York. The O is a zero. Or we have a newsletter through Forbes that comes out every Friday where we share updates about the under 30 community and also just like young business news. So you can find me there as well. And then my Forbes profile page where I'll have stories coming out every couple weeks.
Great. Amazing. And for everyone else, thank you for tuning in. You can expect another episode next Wednesday, but in the meantime, make sure you like, subscribe, and also leave a comment and a review. I will see you guys next week. Bye.